Hey everybody, welcome to Harmon Garage. I'm Aaron, and today we're gonna spend a little bit more time on old Jammer and see if maybe we can get this motor to move. It's been, I wanna say at least another 7 days. Yeah, 7 to 9 days since the last time I tried to get it to move. And it's been sitting there all that time with that Corrosion X and the diesel fuel in it. So there's a chance that maybe we can get it to turn over. And if we can't, we're gonna start tearing the motor apart and see what and where it's stuck. So I'm going to get a bar out and put it on there and see if we can get it to turn by hand, which I doubt we will. Pops ran to go do something, and when he gets back, if I can't get it to spin with a bar, we're gonna hook it up to old RJ again and give it a couple jerks and see what happens. All right, well, I went ahead and put a bar on it, tried to move it both ways, and nothing. Not even the slightest little insinuation of anything. So we're gonna go ahead, hook her up to RJ, drag her around, dump the clutch a couple more times and see if we get any movement whatsoever. I've got a mark on the belt and one of the pulleys, so I know if it moves. We'll give it a couple laps and see if we can't get it to do something, and if we can't, then we'll get it up here on the concrete and we'll start tearing the motor down. Okay, well, I don't know how much of that you guys saw, but this whole thing ain't giving it up. We're gonna pull this valve cover off, start looking at the valve train, and then we'll just work our way down. I'll get the carburetor and stuff off. We'll start pulling the head, see what we get. One way or another, this motor is going to have to be, I don't want to say freshened up because it's a little bit more than freshened up, but it's going to have to come out and get gone through anyways. So I just had hopes and dreams that we could get it spinning over on its own before we took it out, but my hopes and dreams were shattered. So From what I can tell, this valve cover is only held on by those two nuts that I just took off. And I was correct. Looks like we got some old school shaft mounted rockers. And rather than thinking around trying to get them to move or anything, we'll just go ahead and pull them off too. But of course I'm going to need another size socket for those. And at the end of the day, there is about a 25% chance that this motor's just absolute junk and we're not even going to be able to rebuild it and use it. I really doubt it, but there is that chance. So we'll see what happens. We'll get it out, we'll get it apart. Worst case scenario, it needs a new crank. Needs to be milled out and some sleeves put in it. Yada yada yada. As long as the block's not cracked, should be reusable. Dad?
Where'd it go?
It's right over here on the driver's side behind the tire. That was locked down like it was supposed to be. No reason why that should come apart. Alright, well, that's that out of the way. Push rods all look good. None of them look bent or anything like that. So, when need to go get a screwdriver, a flathead to take the choke cable off.
Big or little?
Medium. And then I need a 1/2 inch, looks like a 1/2 inch wrench to take the fuel line loose. And looks like it's a 1/2 inch down there too. Start getting carburetor off. I should probably put a drain pan under this thing or a 5-gallon bucket and start draining diesel out, because there's still diesel sitting up in this thing, and there's a good chance I start taking stuff apart, stuff's gonna start dumping all over the place. But it's just diesel, it'll clean up. More and more I look at this, I don't know if we're going to be able to pull this head with this in the Jeep, because it looks like all the heads are studded with nuts. This head is studded with nuts, and I don't know if we can, the way the back of this firewall is designed, I don't know if we can pick the head up high enough to get it off of those studs. So we may be pulling the motor sooner than we thought. But let me get some tools together, do a little bit of looking and seeing. We'll kind of figure out where we're at. All right, well, I've done a little bit of work on old Jammer here since the last thing that you guys saw, but not a whole lot. I just went ahead, I got the exhaust all unhooked, I got most of the stuff off of the front of the motor, and I got all the wires and stuff unhooked from the motor and everything else. The only thing that's not unhooked yet is the fuel line, which is right here. I just need to unhook it. Got the radiator out. I'm gonna pull the generator out before I do anything else. And then me and Pops decided we're gonna take the front fenders and the front bumper and the grill shell and all that stuff off. And then rather than trying to mess with the motor inside the truck, I'm just gonna take it out, put it on a stand, and then we can tear it down and see what we find. So that's the plan. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna get some tools out and get all of this front end off of here. And once we get the front end off of there, then we can work on pulling that motor the rest of the way out. So as you guys saw, Pops and I got the front clip off of it and got it pretty well stripped down to where the motor could come out. So I thought, all right, all we should have to do is take the bell housing bolts off and hook a cherry picker up to it and we'll snatch it out of there. Well, that sounds good, sounds great, and I would love if that was the case, but no, it's not the case. There's bolts back in here that are covered up by throttle mechanisms that you can't get to. Let's just say that without pulling the cab off, there's not really any just snatching the motor out. So what I did now, I took the bolts off for the motor mounts on both sides, and I was just going to take this motor mount bracket off and lower the motor down. Well, then I got to taking bolts out to take these brackets off, and then I realized that this bracket is behind the cam gear and the crank gear and this and that and yada yada, and there wasn't no just taking that motor mount off. So then I managed to get the motor mounts out of here. I got the whole motor sitting up on a jack, and the plan is to just let the jack down, and I'm hoping that it'll pivot on the transmission mount and bring the front of the motor down enough that I can get to the last 3 head bolts, and then get the head off, and hopefully give me enough room to get back in there and take all the throttle linkages off to undo the bolts, the bell housing bolts. If that doesn't work, we're pulling the cab. I got to pull the cab anyways, but for paint and body and stuff down the road, but I wanted to wait to do it until after I knew for sure we were going to be able to rebuild this motor and use it, because if not, I didn't want to get too far in the project until I knew that we were going to have a motor that would work. So we'll see what happens. I'm going to try to lower the front end of this motor down, try to get the head off, try to get the rest of the stuff off, and maybe day 3 we'll get the motor yanked out of there. All right, I'm just going to twist this jack, see how far down this motor will pivot on that transmission mount, see if it's far enough for us to get in there and get that head pulled off. It sat all the way back down on the purchase for the motor mounts, which is good. And it looks like I can get to the other head bolts now. And worst case scenario, I may have to take the wiper motor off to get the head out, but I don't think we're gonna have to. I think we'll be able to pop it up if we can get to it. So I'm gonna go get the ratchet and the sockets that I need to take the last 4 nuts off the head studs. And then we'll see if we can't get that head pulled off of there. Well, that was loose. Didn't even really have to break free. Let's see how bad this hurts. Front broke free. Front wiggles.
The back doesn't.
Huh?
The back doesn't.
Not really.
Need another bar, so when you lift up the front, you can lift up the back at the same time.
No, I need to get something smaller that I can get in this. Why the front lifts it up. Or not. No, it's just don't have no balance and you're trying to twist. Alright, well now we got to where we can see something. I'll turn this camera off, I'll bring the other camera in here and show you guys what we got going on. And we'll go from there. Okay, here it is with the head off. And what we have here is something that is new to me. So I'm not sure if I mentioned this already or not, but the head has the intake valves in it. Overhead valve, intake valves. And the exhaust valves are down here in the top of the block like they would be on a flathead. So we got the head off. You guys can see down in here, cylinder 1 is in really bad shape. And, oh man, that's chunky. So that's most likely the problem. I think what we're gonna do is just get 2 studs out and put bolts in to where we can put a chain on it, and hopefully I can reach back there and get the rest of the stuff broke loose, which I think I can now. But this exhaust valve's open, which is probably just where it's sitting on the cam. The other ones are closed and don't seem too rusty except for this one. But I think maybe not. I was gonna say, I think maybe I can take the valves loose down here, but I can't without taking it completely off. And that's something you guys see that a little better there. So I think figuring out how those valves come apart will be easier to do with the motor out and on the stand, because this whole difference in valves and all that stuff is new to me. So I ain't scared of it. We'll figure it out. And before this video is over, we're gonna get that motor either freed up or torn apart, which would free it up. So either way, that's what's gonna happen. So I'm gonna keep at it. I'll keep you guys informed and see how it goes. Okay, before we go any further, I got my stone hone in here, and I'm going through why all the diesel and Marble Mystery Oil and whatever else, transmission fluid, whatever else is in here. And I'm just trying to hone the cylinders on top of the pistons just to get them cleaned up, because I want to get all this stuff out of these cylinders before I move it anywhere else, because it's already leaked all over here. So while I have the lubrication and stuff in there, I want to go ahead and clean the cylinders up a little bit, and then when we go to turn it, maybe it'll help. Alright, I can't really do much with this one, which doesn't feel great. That one feels okay. That one feels a lot better now. One feels okay. This one feels pretty crappy, but it's the highest one up. I can't really get the stone in there to do anything. Yeah, not really doing nothing. So, all right, I think I'm gonna put the nut back on the crank now that I got this off and open. And I don't know that doing that did anything, but we're gonna find out.
Think you need your cheater again?
Huh?
Think you'll need your cheater again?
Yeah. Other than the fact that the nut won't screw back on. Alright. I'm going to get a bar on this and a cheater pipe, which I haven't used at all yet, and just kind of see. I did happen to notice that there's a bunch of mouse nests and mud dauber nests and stuff packed in the flywheel, so that could be slowing down rotation too, but we're just going to see what happens. We'll give her a shot, because I'd really like to get it to turn a little bit before we take it out.
Need a spacer in between there? Or?
Yeah, I'm gonna put the pulley back on or something. Otherwise this needs to tighten up against everything. Dad, I'll grab a long extension and a half-inch impact, please. No, that's me.
Put it back on.
I got it. Where'd the nut go? Alright, now we're back in business.
She ain't budging, is she?
Huh?
She ain't budging, is she?
Yeah, it's moving, it's tightening the bolt up.
Yeah, I know. I was saying nothing else is moving.
Nope. Alright. I guess we just gotta take it out. There's a chance that there was water sitting down in the pan, enough of it that it displaced the oil. There's a good chance that the main bearings are rusted in the rods. So that may be the case. I'm going to go ahead and get as much of this stuff off of the back of this motor as I can, so I can try to get it to where we can take the bell housing bolts off. So I'll give you guys another little whoop, and then we'll be back and be yanking this thing out. So I'll see you in a second. Okay, this thing really put up a fight, and it's worn me out, but finally persevered. I think I have everything unhooked that I need to unhook to yank this motor out of here. So, gonna see. And now it's stuck together. There's still a bolt sitting in there. It's not bolted in, but alright, pick it up.
They're gonna hit that.
You're good. Okay, pull it back. Alright. Okay, she's out. Got some tear down we're gonna have to do on it, get clutches and flex plates and whatnot off. And then we'll work on putting it on the stand. So I'm gonna get some tools together and I'll be right back.
Yeah, that looks great.
Alright, got that off. Got down to our flywheel here. We're going to go ahead and go get a wrench for this. Pop this off, and then we should be able to figure out what bolts we're going to need to put it on the stand. And that's not going to come off easy either. Alright, let me take a break for a minute. Been fighting this thing. I'm just going to relax for a second. And then we'll fight that some more. Alright, well, through the starter hole over here, I was able to take a hammer, tap that a couple times, and it came off. So that's done. We'll get our intermediate plate over there. And there's mouse nest in the back of the block. There's mouse nest in the transmission, which I'll show you in a minute. Everywhere. So I'm going to try one more time. Yeah, ain't doing nothing. We're going to get her on the stand and see what we can do. And we'll get her apart and get it broke free. So I'm going to get it on the stand and then I'll get back with you guys when we start taking it apart. Alright, so we got the motor on the stand. There's the nasty sludge stuff that's still down in the cylinders. And the next thing we're going to do is roll this thing over so we can take the oil pan off, because I'm going to start, well, I want to look at it and see what it looks like, but I'm going to start pulling rod and main caps that I think are going to be rusted and seized up, because the cylinders are cleaned up and the motor still won't move. So got a pan down here to try to catch as much of the nasty as I can. Put it back down where I had it, because if it comes over it's going to leak before we get underneath. And we'll get as much of that as we can. This is all stripped out. Told you guys I'd show you. You know it hasn't been running in a while when you got mud daubers and mice building apartment buildings inside your transmission. So we got it pretty much stripped down to where we need it for now. We're gonna start digging into this motor and see what we can figure out with it, and hopefully we can get stuff to move and there's not too much damage. So I'm going to I wanted to try to show that number so we can figure out exactly what we got here, but I'm gonna have to do some cleaning to see it. But kinda looks like a Ford part number. We're gonna do some research. We're gonna find out what this motor is for sure, and I'm gonna tell you guys before this video's over. But for right now, we're gonna get it rolled over, drain as much junk as we can out of it. We'll get that oil pan off and check out the bottom end. All right, I guess it's about time to make an even bigger mess than we've already made. Try to roll this thing over without flipping the stand over or anything like that. So here we go. Because I tried really hard to make sure that this was kind of centered on the stand, but it's going to be really top heavy. And who knows what else. That's water.
We'll have to make a mess of getting this up and clean up this afternoon, so. No antifreeze, no diesel fuel or whatever.
No, it's still full of antifreeze. Up there goes the lifters. Well, I guess I got it pretty well balanced. It doesn't seem like it's going to flip over or anything. I need to make a little stand on here for this bar. This bar on this engine stand's been missing dang near since I got it. And it's always a pain in the butt, but that made it really nice. So we may put some effort into that one of these days. Alright, we're gonna bust this pan off, see what we find. Alright, no, I'm just kidding. Let's pop this thing on, see if we find anything incriminating in here. Apparently, it's been glued on with JB weld. Not necessarily. Could have been glued on originally. There we go. Okay. See if we see anything. Yep. Slightly resembles the inside of a motor. And it doesn't. The crank and everything is clean, so it doesn't look like anything in here is rusty. So, I'm going to get a flashlight, look down in these cylinders, see what I see, and if I see anything that I think you need to see, then I'll show you. But otherwise, we're just going to keep digging and looking.
Right on.
Okay, so we've looked at everything, and I don't see anything that would be keeping it from turning. So it has to just be tight rings. So Pops is gonna put some pressure on the crank, and I'm gonna take this big dead blow hammer I got, and I'm gonna hit these journals, and we're gonna see if we can get it to free up and start moving, because I think maybe there's just a little spot in there or something where the rings are stuck. I can't imagine they'd be that stuck, but guess we'll find out. So he's going to put pressure on it. I'm going to whack it with a hammer. I'm hitting it on the back cylinders because those were the two that had open valves. So see what happens. Move?
Yeah.
See if it'll move. Other way. Okay, so now it's moving. Good stop?
No.
Here, use the ratchet. He's just going to sit there and make sure we can go all the way around. Keep it going for a little bit. And then we'll roll it back over and turn the motor over and see what the cylinders look like, because everything down here looks super clean. I can see the cam. Cam looks good. Is it turning easy now?
Yeah. That one high spot is pretty much done.
Yeah.
A couple times that I hit a spot, but now it seems to be done. All the pistons seem to be going up and down.
Well, yeah, they're all going up and down. All right, we're gonna roll it back over and we'll turn it over and check out the cylinders. Why we turn it. So. Luckily, there was plenty of lube in the cylinders from all that crap that me and everybody else has put in there. So, go ahead. Alright, I'm going to get these cleaned out a little bit so we can see in here better, and then we'll try it again. Okay, so before we go much further into this, we did some research and found out that this is in fact a Willys, original Willys motor, engine, whatever you prefer to say. It is a F4 134 Hurricane engine, 4-cylinder inline, exhaust valves in the block, intake valves in the head. They originally put out like 72 to 75 horsepower and 114 foot-pounds of torque. So for something like the Willys over there that's geared really high and meant to creep around and crawl around in 4-wheel drive, 75 horsepower, 114 foot-pounds of torque, got the job done. You want to take this thing out, drive it down the highway, plan on not getting anywhere anytime soon. But other than that, I found out what it was so that I could get parts for it. I did source some of the needed parts for it. I talked to the owner of the truck, and he doesn't want it to be a daily driver. He doesn't plan on, you know, taking it on a cross-country cruise or anything. He just wants the truck to be running and driving and nice and able to take to car shows locally and stuff like that. So as far as tearing this motor completely down and doing a full rebuild on it and all that stuff, that's out of the question. The fact that it's turning over, the cylinders are clean, there's no like pits and rust or scrapes or anything really bad in the cylinders, and I know the rings are still seating because they were holding all the liquid that we had poured into the cylinders. So what I'm going to do is try to clean up the valves the best that I can. They spin really easy, so I'm going to get some valve lapping compound in there, spin them, and try to get, you know, the seats reground a little bit. We'll clean it out real good, and then I'm going to take my hone, and like right now I have cylinder 1 and cylinder 4 all the way down at their lowest point. I'm going to go ahead and hone cylinder 1 and cylinder 4. We'll turn the motor over so that 2 and 3 are all the way down at their lowest point, and then we'll hone 2 and 3, and we'll get this thing cleaned up. I already have a gasket set ordered for it so that we can re-gasket it and reassemble everything that we've already taken apart. But the main thing is going to be just to clean everything up and get it ready to go back together. So I'm going to go ahead and lap the valves in the block the best that I can, and we're going to hone out these cylinders and see how the day goes. Maybe we'll clean up some more parts and get this thing ready to shoot a coat of paint on it, or maybe we'll just kind of call it a quits on this video and wait until we get more parts for it. So let's do what we already decided we're going to do, and then we'll see what we're going to do after that. For the most part, everything in this motor, other than where the water sat in it, is really clean and in good shape. So the only reason I'm really even lapping these valves is because this one, you can see rust on this seat, and this valve has rust around it because this was one of the cylinders that had water sitting in it. So these don't look that bad. I'm probably just going to go ahead and do all of them just so that they're equal. But I got valve lapping compound down in there, and now I just want to get that valve down, but to where it still spins easy, which isn't right there. you guys are watching this, this really shows you the cycle of a combustion engine, because you see that it takes 3 full rotations before that exhaust valve moves. Oh, there it goes right there. Alright. Now we got it where we can do something with it. Alright, we got that one done. I'll bring you guys in here and show them to you in a minute, but we actually have a seat back in there and it's clean. I'm going to go and get some stuff to squirt in here to clean this up. We'll get it cleaned up. I'll do the other 3 because they all look kind of grody. And yeah, we'll keep on going. first things first, before anybody goes on a tangent and tells me about how I screwed up this whole engine and valve lapping compound has sand in it and I just put it down in the motor because there's no way I got it all cleaned out and blah 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 blah. No. The only place it can go is right here. That's the exhaust ports, where the exhaust manifold goes. So the exhaust will come through if there's any left in there, which there shouldn't be because I cleaned it pretty thoroughly. It's gonna blow out the exhaust. What's it gonna do? Sand the inside of the exhaust manifold? Okay. The head has a cutout here. The exhaust comes up out of the piston, goes over through the valve, comes out here. Nothing goes back in here. It's not getting in water jackets. It's not getting in oil galleys. It's not getting anywhere but out that manifold. So next thing I'm gonna do is get some oil over here, lube down these cylinders a little bit, and then we'll start honing them. Okay, cylinder 1, cylinder 4 are all the way down. We've got some purple juice here. It's engine oil. I'm gonna squirt a bunch down in there, which didn't really get on the cylinder walls. It just kind of went down and sat on the pistons, but I'll go ahead and rub it all over the cylinder walls. They're nice and oiled up now, and then I'm just gonna go ahead and run my hone. Then we'll do the same thing over here. Got this one all lubed up good. Okay. Now what we're going to do we're going to roll our motor over and it should push all of our oil. The scraper ring should bring everything up to the top, just like that. And then, I don't think we're all the way up to the top yet, but we gotta soak some of this up or it's gonna be all over everywhere. Oh yeah, we're right at the top. But I don't have anything dripping out of the bottom, which tells me one important thing. I have a good ring seat, which is important knowing that we're just reusing all this stuff. So get all this excess oil cleaned up. Put a little more on here. Get these cylinder walls all lubed up really well. now I'm gonna do same thing I just did on 1 and 4. I'm gonna turn the motor and bring those pistons all the way up, get that cleaned off, and just get it cleaned up halfway decent here. And then I'll bring the other camera over and I'll show you guys what our cylinder walls look like now. I'll show you what our valve seats look like now. And I'll show you how everything that we just did to help the life and longevity of this motor out, since we're not going to do a rebuild or a freshen on it. So we're just cleaning it up because it was stuck. And we'll go on from there. Alright. I don't know how well you guys are going to be able to see this, but there's our cylinder walls. Come on. There's our cylinder walls. You can see they're pretty clean, cross hatching in them. There's no ring ridges or anything like that. It cleaned up pretty good. The oil that I've poured in there, the diesel fuel and the Marvel mystery oil and all that stuff that poured on top of those cylinders trying to free it up, was all still sitting on top of the cylinders when I opened this motor up. So I know the rings are still seated up and pretty good. So that's good news. And then if you look here, you can see we've got nice ground clean seats back on our valves. I don't know if you guys could see that. Hopefully you could, but I haven't really showed you a lot about this motor. It's kind of been more of a, I'm fighting to pull it out and it's pissing me off. And what are we gonna do with it? But, so like I showed you already, the exhaust valves are in the block. And then the intake valves are all in the head. The intake manifold is integrated in the head. And you got your valves that are tied in down to your lifters down here. And then we've got push rods that go to our valves up in the head. So the engine mounting plate is behind the cam gears and everything, so you can't take it out unless you pull the cam gear off or pull the cam out, which kind of makes it a pain in the butt, and my life would have been a lot easier if that would have came out. But it's fine, everything's fine, it's all gonna be fine. So I don't know, we're gonna clean the head up. I'm gonna clean the head up and all that. I'm gonna finish cleaning the rest of the block up to where it'll take some paint, valve cover, oil pan, stuff like that. We have a gasket set ordered. It's coming. We don't know when it'll be here. It could take up to 30 days, apparently. So I'm not really sure. But we're not gonna go much further on this motor at this moment because I can't really do a whole lot with it until I start putting it back together. So I can clean it up and we'll clean it up, we'll put it back together, we'll paint it, we'll get it ready to put back in the truck in another video. As I've already said, the Willys is going to be a pretty big project. It's basically getting a frame off, but mildly. It's not going to be super show truck when it's done, but we'll clean up, paint the frame, we'll put new bushings and everything, throw some new shocks on it, make the brakes work. It's going to get a painted frame, it's going to get body work and paint, it's going to get the interior cleaned up a little bit, and just all those things. So somebody opened the door because it was not open. There we go, now it's not open anymore. But I don't know, this isn't one of the greatest videos ever, but everything is part of the process, and if I'm going through the process of doing it, I'm videoing it and showing you guys. So this is all part of the process. If we didn't do what we did here, we wouldn't be making any headway on old jammer over here. So you got to do what you got to do. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the jammer project and you're not subscribed, make sure you hit the button so you don't miss anything on it. We got more coming up on Evergreen here real quick, and things are just going to keep going. And we've had to make some changes and decisions and plans on what's going on with Evergreen and what's going on with the burnout truck. So I'll tell you all about all that in the next video, so make sure you don't miss that one either. But thank you guys so much for watching. If it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be able to do this. Y'all have a good one. We'll see you next time.